Alright guys, so we need to now fetch our items from Firebase. So we're going to need the Firebase module for that. Make sure you have Node.js installed, and then you can use npm to install it. So I'm going to go down here and we're going to do npm install Firebase -- save. That's something different, don't worry about that. Now, for some reason, when I use Commander or PowerShell, sometimes when I install using npm, I'll get a permissions issue, and I'm not sure why. I don't think that it's something that you'll have, but I find that if I use the git bash command utility that I have installed, it doesn't do that. So I may have a permission issue and have to do it with git bash. I've been meaning to kind of troubleshoot and see what's going on, but yeah, see, I get this error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, in the project folder, Itemlister, I'm just going to use git bash here. And if you want this utility, this command line utility, you can go to git-scm.com and download it. But I'm just going to run the same thing here, npm install Firebase -- save. And then that should work, or at least it's been working. Alright, so you can see that worked fine. So I'm not exactly sure why, but the React packager stopped, so I need to just run that again. React Native start. Okay, and then this should reload. Okay, and we now have Firebase installed, so let's go back to index.android, and we need to bring it in. So I'm going to go right here. And with Firebase, we actually need to do import star, or import all, as Firebase from Firebase. Oops. Okay, so now we brought that in, and now what we need to do is set up our config. So we're going to say const Firebase config and set that to an object. And then if we go to our Firebase console and go to this spot, this right here, add Firebase to your web app, and I'm just going to grab all of these except for the messenger ID there. We don't need that. And I'm going to copy and then just paste it right in here in this object. Okay, and yours, make sure you use yours, do not use mine. This isn't even going to be live at the time you're watching this. Let's get that last comma off there. Alright, so now that we did that, we need to go down here and say const Firebase app and set that to Firebase dot initialize, spell that right? Yeah, initialize app, and then we need to pass in our config, so Firebase config. Alright, that'll initialize it. Now, when we work with Firebase, we need to create a reference. So what I'm going to do is go into the constructor, go under where we define the state, and say this dot items ref, and set that to this dot get ref dot child, and we want to grab the items collection just like that. And then we need to create a function called getRef. And let's go ahead and return Firebase app dot database dot ref. Okay, and that'll get our reference. And this is all in the Firebase documentation if you want to check that out as well. Now, when we call get items right here, we now want to pass in the item reference. So right here we'll say this dot items ref, and we also want to put it here. Okay, and then we're going to go to our get items, and that takes in items ref. And then we need to change some stuff up here. I'm going to comment out the static data we put there, and let's do items ref dot on. So on value, when we get the value, then we want to run an arrow function. All right, and then this is going to take a parameter called snap, and then down here we're going to create, actually let's use let items and set that to an empty array, and then we can use the snap value to loop through and then push onto that items array. So we're going to say snap dot for each. Okay, we're going to use a for each loop here, and then pass in another arrow function which will take child as a parameter, and then in here we'll take that items array that we created and push onto it. Alright, so push, and let's pass in the object, and that's going to have a title, which is going to come from child.val.title, and then also a key. So we're going to do underscore key and get child.key. Alright, so each item is going to have a title and a key. Alright, so let's see, once we do that, then we want to run this. We want to set the item data source and the state, but we want to do it up here after the for each, so right here. So we're just going to cut this, and we're going to paste that in right there, and we shouldn't have to change anything. That should be fine because we're passing in items, which, you know, is this array here that we push onto here, and we should have the data. So let's go ahead and save that and see what happens. We may have to manually reload. There they are. So we know that these are coming from Firebase because we had 5 items. Awesome. So now we're fetching the data. Now in the next video, what we want to do is create our bring in our add button. And we're going to put that down here, and we're going to make it so that we click that, and then a modal is going to open, which is basically just another page that will slide up, and we'll have a text input where we can add a new item and then push it to Firebase. So that's what we'll be doing next. Alright guys, so we're now able to fetch the items from Firebase and display them in our mobile application. Now we want to add the add button component, and we want to basically be able to click on that, have a modal open with a text input, and we'll be able to add an item. Alright, so let's go to our add button component, and there's nothing in here yet, so I'm going to copy what we have in Toolbar and just paste that in here. And we'll change the class name to add button. Same thing down here. Okay, and then for, let's see, we're bringing in styles, and I also want to bring in this constants right here because we're going to give the button that color. So to do that, we can say constants and set that equal to styles dot constants. Okay, and then let's get rid of everything in this view, and then we're going to give this view style and set that to styles dot action, and we're going to bring in touchable highlight. Okay, and then we'll put that in here. Okay, and then this is going to have some properties to it. So let's do underlay color. And we're going to set that equal to a hexadecimal value, and that's going to be 24CE84. All right, and then that's going to have an on press. And basically, the on press, we want to call the function outside of this file in the index Android or index iOS file. So to do that, we're going to just set this to this.props.onPress. That way we can access this as a property in the parent component. Okay, and then this is going to wrap a text. And let's see, we'll give this text style. We're going to set that to styles.actionText. And then in here, we want to display the title, this.props.title, which we can pass in as a property. So let's save that. And then we're going to go to our index Android.js and bring that in. So we want to import add button. Okay, that's going to be from /app/components. Oops. Okay, so we're bringing that in, and then we're going to put it down in the render under the list view. So we'll put add button on press. We're going to set that to this dot, and then a function called add item, which we need to bind this to. And then we'll just throw in the title, which will be add item. Okay, we're going to put add item right here. Actually, I'll put it on, nah, it's fine. Add item can go here. Okay. So let's save that and just see if it renders. You may have to reload it. Oh, this pops up occasionally. I'm not sure why. Firebase name default already exists, which is really strange. And it might be because we're calling this get items twice. Let me just try that. Let's reload. Let's go back in. Sometimes this thing can be a little finicky. Alright, so now down here you can see very small, it says add item. So I want to add some styling to that. Let's go to style.js and we'll go down here and we'll just add a couple styles. We'll put a comma, and then I'm pasting in center, which will just align center, action text, and then action. Okay, and the background color is coming from constants.action color, which is up here. So let's save that. And there's our add item button. Now I was initially going to do the whole functionality of adding an item in this video, but I think it'll get kind of long, so we're going to stop here, and in the next video we're going to add the modal functionality so that we can actually add an item. Alright, so in the last video we created the add button, or add button component to add an item. Now when we click this, it's going to, let's see, it's going to call this add item function. Now all we want this to do is to load a modal. So what we need to do is bring in modal up at the top in order to use it. Okay, that comes from React Native. And then we need to, actually, you know what I'm going to do is open up the documentation page. So let's do that. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's open new window. You can ignore that. And we're going to go to, let's say, React Native React Native, what are we looking for here? Modal. Okay, so we brought modal in. Now in our state we want to have this modal visible, and then we want to have a function called set modal visible, which will set it to either true or false. By default it's going to be false. So let's go over here, and in our state we're going to set modal visible and set that to false by default. And then we'll have a function called set modal visible. Get rid of that. And that's going to take in visible, and then we're just going to set the state. So this dot set state, and we're going to set modal visible to whatever's in that visible, which will be either true or false. Okay, and then if we look at the documentation, we need to put paste the modal into the render. So let's just copy that, and we'll go down to render, and make sure you're in the view, the container view, and we're going to just paste that in here. All right, now we can keep animation type slide, that's fine. Transparent, false. Visible is going to be set to that state value, whether it's true or false. On request close, that will run an alert. We don't need that. Oops. I'll just get rid of that alert. Let's see, margin top, that's fine. Text, hello world. All right. And then we have this hide modal button. Okay, so that's basically going to be kind of our submit. Now remember, when we click the add item right here, it's going to call this function, where'd it go? Add item. So all we need to do here is set the modal visible to true. Set state modal visible, we're going to set to true. Oh, actually that's not what we want. That's not what we want at all. We don't want to set state. We want to say this dot modal visible and set that to true. Okay, and that's actually going to be set modal visible. So let's save that, and we'll click add item, and can't find variable modal visible. Let's see. Oh, right here. This set state should be wrapped in curly braces. So let's try it now. And there's our modal. Okay, it's not very good looking, but it is a modal. And if we click hide modal, that should close it. So what we'll do is go back down to our render, and this is what is rendering. So we want to have the toolbar here as well. So let's go ahead and put in toolbar and title. So the title will say add item. And then instead of hide modal right here, let's change it to save item. And now once that's pressed, it's going to just change the visible here, but we also want it to push the items, we want it to push the text input, which we haven't created yet, onto Firebase. So we're going to call right here, we're going to call this dot items ref, and then we should be able to just push right onto that and upload to Firebase. So in here we'll just say title, and we'll set that to this dot state dot text, which we haven't created yet. So let's add text to the state. That's going to represent what we type in the form, or the input. So let's go right here and just say text, and we'll set it to nothing by default. Alright, and then we'll go back down to our modal and go right under the toolbar and put in our text input, which we still have to bring in. Okay, and then that is going to have a value of whatever's in that text in the state. And let's add a placeholder. We'll just say add item. And we'll say on change text. We're going to do an arrow here that's going to have a value, and then we're just going to set the state. We're going to set state and then set text to whatever the value is that's being typed in. Alright, and let's bring in text input up here. Alright, so let me just make sure that there's nothing else. Alright, we'll save that. Actually, you know what? In addition to save item, we need a close button as well. So I'm just going to copy this touchable highlight. And then this one here, let's just change this to close or cancel. And then we want to call set modal visible, but we don't want to call the items push. We just want to cancel. Okay, save that. Alright, we'll say add item. And let's just type something in here. Actually, where's the close? There should be a cancel button. You know what, we may have to reload again. Alright, so now we'll say add item. And now it has a cancel. So let's go ahead and add something in here. I'm just going to say test. Alright, and then we'll just click save item. And there it is, test. And if we look at our Firebase console, database, and let's look at here, and there we go, test. And it creates the key or the ID for us as well. Okay, so now we just want to be able to delete, and that's going to be very, very simple. We're just going to go to our press row. Right now it's just console logging the item. So we just need to change this right here to this. Let's say this dot items ref, and we can say dot child, pass in the key, which can come from item dot underscore key, and then dot remove. Okay, we'll save that, and then we'll go over and click test, and it removes. We can remove 5, 4, 2, and let's go back. Let's go to Firebase, and they're gone. And this updates live. You don't have to reload the page either. So that's it. So we now have a very simple item lister. This could be a grocery list or a to-do list or anything like that. And feel free to take it further and add on to it as well. That's it, and I will see you in the next project.